There we are. Good morning to you, and welcome to our continuing work with a treatise on cosmic fire. I've been thinking ahead to the time when preparatory schools will be well established in the places where they are to be established, and even some of the advanced schools will be emerging. And since this is a book which only opens up really to the initiate consciousness, I can see that this book could easily be used, even in those days. So I think, just the way the secret doctrine is not written to fade away after the end of the 19th century, so it is with a treatise on cosmic fire. And as we study these matters, we are studying things that in future lives, when we are involved with the hierarchy's attempt to come forward through the new schools, we are studying material that will be amplified in the future. We cannot, at this time, expect that we will be able to understand anything in its completeness. Even the other books, which he tells us that esoteric psychology 1 and 2, somewhere he talks about them being open to the consciousness of the initiate of the first degree. But even there are many references which will have to, I think, wait for fuller explanation. So, as you know, I have gone into great detail on some of these things, and they can all be found on Makara if you want to study with real care. I don't think I can verbally go over all of the things that are in the written commentary. I'll maybe take a little bit more expeditious approach and see how that may work. And that way we won't have to wait until the year 2050 to be completed with this task. I don't think we'll be in such good shape by that time. Or maybe we'll be back and we'll see how it is unfolding. So I just want to begin, as we're getting very close, of course, to this decisive election in which so much of the negativity of the human personality is on display, so much cheating, voter suppression, and disenfranchisement of people who otherwise should be able to have the vote that many people fought and died for. Let's just, continue to hold our point of tension here. And one of the ways we'll do it is through the sounding of the second great invocation with great attentiveness and a certain longing that these things shall manifest. It will have application. It had application, of course, in the Second World War. And the amazing thing is that about 2 years or so after this invocation was given to the disciples of the Tibetan, and they tried, of course, to popularize it and make it used, it appears, and we're told, that the Lords of Liberation did respond in ways of which we know nothing, but basically it amounted to the salvation of humanity when even the hierarchy had thought it was all going south, as it were. So these invocations are powerful indeed, and when we're using them, we have to have faith in them. They do work, they have worked, and they will work. So let's make our alignment as a group together with the points of higher vibration, those points of tension, which essentially flow from Shambhala. Something can reach us, of course. As we reach up, not really up or down, but you know what I mean, as we intensify our point of tension. Let the Lords of Liberation issue forth. Let them bring succor to the sons of men. Let the rider from the secret place come forth, and coming save. Come forth, O Mighty One. Let the souls of men awaken to the light, and may they stand with massed intent. Let the fiat of the Lord go forth. The end of woe has come. Come forth, O Mighty One. The hour of service of the saving force has now arrived. Let it be spread abroad, O Mighty One. Let light and love and power and death fulfill the purpose of the coming one. The will to save is here. The love to carry forth the work is widely spread abroad. The active aid of all who know the truth is also here. Come forth, O Mighty One, and blend these three. Construct a great defending wall. The rule of evil now must end. Thank you. And welcome to those who are here. As I say, in the United States, it's not so possible. And in Canada, you know, it's kind of the middle of the night for a lot of people, except on the west coast. But Michael and Tuy are here in general, helping us through. And welcome Anne Veronica, Annette, Catherine, Cindy, Frederick, Hilda, Joe, Karen on the West Coast, okay. Leslie, Lynette, Martine, Mary, Nathalie, Nesa, Raz, and Sri Yantara Veronica, Zenaidi, Miro, and I think Amira. Yeah, right. Okay, well, welcome to you, and glad to see you here. Now, what I'm going to do is pretty much go into the book Cosmic Fire, just a little review here because we're dealing with microcosmic fire. And we'll, try to get the distinction between fire and flame as we go along. Sometimes words are used differently in different contexts. So in the microcosm, we've talked about it a little bit. The internal vitalizing fire, that's one, the lowest type of fire considered inclusively, and we have with it the latent heat and the active heat. And this is the basic vibration of the little system in which the monad or human spirit is the logos. We little emanations, we are the logos of our own tiny system. And in judging of the way that the planetary logos handles his system, or the solar logos his system, according to what DK tells us, we can get a little hint about how we handle our system. And this fire, it holds the personality or lower material man in objective manifestation, thus permitting the spiritual unit to contact the plane of densest matter. Of course, when that fire fades, we lose our physical anchor temporarily and have to generate another one when the cycle comes due and we are due to reincarnate. Meanwhile, of course, we are impressing the tiny lives that are gathered around us. We are impressing them with a higher vibration and contributing to their advancement, their elevation, in the same way the planetary logos does that. Every time the logos has a new incarnation, and there are different ways of considering the logoic incarnations. It doesn't have to be, let us say, the making of an entirely new planet, although that is a great incarnation. And obviously, when the logos does that, an entirely new level of vibration is possible for the type of human being or the type of member of a kingdom that will appear. But every time Sanat Kumara focuses in another area of his general planetary scheme, it is like an incarnation, a lesser type of incarnation. And right now, he's focusing as the representative of the planetary logos. He is focusing on the fourth globe of the fourth chain. Okay. Sorry, something froze there, and hopefully that doesn't happen too often. Okay, so, over cycles, we constantly improve. We cannot improve all at once. We have to have cyclic improvement. And why is that? Well, maybe it has to do with this law of adaptation in time. So this internal vitalizing fire, it has the correspondence of in the ray of intelligent activity, and is controlled by the law of economy in one of its subdivisions. Now, if you want to go to Makara, you will find that I have pulled in from many places different references, either in this book or other books, and you can get into the various subdivisions of the law of economy. But maybe it's not so necessary right at this moment. Let's see here. I want to, yeah. Okay, so the law of adaptation in time. Now, adaptation is a third aspect activity. It means that according to the condition of the environment, so changes take place in the entity, which make it possible to function in that environment with greater skill. But as I said, it can't happen all at once. In a way, think of the way the Earth, for instance, rotates on its axis. It's not daylight everywhere, is it? Nor is it night everywhere at the same time. It can't be. So, because of the rotation, there is cyclic exposure to a heightening energy. Cyclic exposure to a heightening energy. And when you think about the Earth revolving around the sun, it's rotating on its axis and revolving around the sun, the same thing holds. We have let's say the seasons, they're different in different parts of the world, but, spring, summer, fall, winter, or the dry season or the rainy season, or whatever it is in the different parts of the world. It's not all at once, nor are we all at once. No form can withstand the constant pressure of a heightening energy without some rest period. Same thing, when we go to sleep or wake up, we live during the day, the conscious life on the physical plane, and at night we live on the astral plane pretty much, or maybe sometimes the mental plane. But it's not constant, it's cyclic. And I think that this law of adaptation in time tells us that we change cyclically so that the form can withstand the pressure of the energies which are intended to raise the form to a new level. And that dualistic cyclicity seems to operate throughout the universe. I think it's the second law, second fundamental of the secret doctrine, and it is taking place in general under the law of periodicity. Now think of it in the seventh ray age, which is, you can call it many things, but in one way we can call it the period of rhythm, the age of rhythm, or the age of rhythmic adaptation. All of this exposure to the energies which are to raise us will occur in a much more regular and refined rhythm, rather than the chaotic, rajasic kind of non-rhythm in which we're living today. I mean, we have emerged from tamas, from inertia. I mean, so many of us have emerged from strictly rotary motion, but rajas is hyperactive, and we will settle into the sattva, the third guna. We will settle into the sattva of the seventh ray age of lawful cyclic adaptation. And this will be a much more regulated life. And the progress, I believe, will be more extensive and more noticeable. Right now, I'm afraid that our chaos contributes to as much disorganization as it does to reorganization. Remember, from Shambhala, which governs everything here on our planet, three great energies come forth: purification, second ray; destruction, first ray; organization, third ray; and following. Okay, and then the fire of the spark of mind. This is the solar fire. This is the fire implanted in many of us, but not all. The animal men of the ancient period had this fire of the spark of mind implanted in them by the solar angel, via the angel of the presence. And this is the way that the solar angel stays in contact with its personality, the personality that is being supervised. Now, not all human beings or animal men were at the same stage, and some could not rightfully receive this fire of the spark of mind from the solar angel. As a matter of fact, there's a place here, and I don't want to go to it right now because I don't want to spend time to, try to find it. But basically, we're told about a mass extinction of the animal men of the period because the implantation of the spark of mind had a huge destructive effect upon the forms in which that spark was implanted. And many animal forms died because of this implantation of the spark of mind. Amazing thought, electrical storms and dying forms taking place millions of years ago. Now, maybe some of us were involved in that if we are of the earth humanity, but so many that are studying with Master Decay are, I think, like himself, from the moon chain. So a different method of individualization there took place. And then, when we talk about individualization, maybe on the previous solar system, we haven't got a whole lot to say. It is not, though, the method of the solar angel implanting the hastening spark of mind. Blavatsky, I think I mentioned, called us, those of us who have the spark of mind, and even if we were individualized on the moon chain, we still have it because a solar angel associated itself with us when we came from the moon chain in the third sub race of the fourth root race. So there was some kind of overshadowing there that did take place. What was I going to say here? Well, it will come back to me. Suffice it to say, most human beings have at this time this spark of mind, even though different methods of individualization were used. That, maybe people like yourself and myself and those who are studying on the avant-garde of occultism already had egoic lotuses, and maybe already one petal was in process of unfoldment, maybe more. In other words, there was some progress on the moon chain. And when coming into the earth chain development, the unfoldment of the egoic lotus did continue. In other words, it's not like we had to start all over again. So all of that is in the archives of the masters, and one day we will know what groups we belong to. Anyway, this is the correspondence in man to solar fire and not fire by friction. And DK says this constitutes the thinking self-conscious unit or the soul. Now that's essentially what we are on the plane of higher mind. You and I are thinking self-conscious units, and we have to learn, if we are to be initiated, how to focus our consciousness within the egoic lotus causal body on the higher mental plane, and especially on the second sub-level of the higher mental plane, where the causal body moves vibratorily as initiation is approached. Otherwise, it's on the third sub-level. You're familiar with that idea. This fire of mind is governed by the law of attraction, and we might add parenthetically, and repulsion. It's a pattern-making law, the law of attraction, as is its greater correspondence in the macrocosm. There is, after all, a great solar angel associated with our solar logos, from which the smaller solar angels come forth and supervise the development of the kind of human beings that you and I are at this time. Later we can enlarge on this, he says. It is this spark of mind in man, manifesting as spiral cyclic activity. So that is the type of motion that is characteristic of the second aspect of divinity, spiral cyclic motion. You know how that's done. If you press forward with first ray motion upon rotary third ray motion, you get the spiral, okay? So, which leads to expansion, Jupiter, right? And to his eventual return to the center of his system, the monad. And we, you and I, are on our way back to full monadic consciousness, having undertaken a redemptive mission in the lower worlds, raising up the extensions of the solar logos, which are still trapped in matter more than we are. The origin and the goal for the reincarnating jiva or human being, in other words, the monad, is the origin and the goal for the reincarnating jiva or human being. The jiva is the self-conscious unit which is making the pilgrimage. You might call it the prodigal son. You might call it the monad who has gone forth, and then there's the monad who has stayed at home. So we have both. We are the monad on the monadic plane, and we are an aspect of that monad who, as the prodigal, has gone forth for purposes of redemption. It's a very Pisces thing. I leave the Father's home, and turning back, I save. As in the macrocosm, this fire also manifests in a twofold manner. Now remember, our symbol is the five-pointed star. And at least it is now. Maybe in the next solar system, it will be more the 7-pointed star. And as far as the 6-pointed star goes, it pretty well signals the monad itself. I have been to India once in this incarnation, and we were there, a number of us, Tuya and I and some friends, and for the so-called Shambhala impact of the year 2000. And it was very interesting that Master Moria, who had an earlier incarnation as Akbar the Great, a great Mughal emperor, had on his buildings in Agra this 6-pointed star, not just on one building, but on a number of them. And he was also, this Akbar was also a later incarnation of King Solomon, so the story goes. And this 6-pointed star is called Solomon's seal, S-E-A-L, the seal of solar man, Solomon's seal. And so, somehow the connection with this great first ray master, Solomon, Akbar, Moria, all the same beings, is connected with the monad having for its symbol a 6-pointed star, probably, of course, with a point at the very center of it. Okay, so it shows as that intelligent will which links the monad or spirit, now sometimes monad is called spirit, with the lowest point of contact, the personality, functioning through the physical vehicle. And basically what he's saying is that this fire of mind, this spark of mind, this solar fire is a linking fire. And you and I are at work in developing this linking fire. We're not yet to the point where we can focus within the monad per se. Really, you have to be a 6th-degree initiate, one who has, in the technical sense of the term, ascended in order to, focus within the monad. No, right now, our goal is to be able to focus our consciousness within the solar fire of the higher mental plane, which exists there because the angel of the presence, solar angel, is establishing itself on the higher mental plane. It also has the solar angel also has a kind of a Buddhic outpost as well. And there is a map that shows that, and maybe you can be familiar with it. Let's see if there's any way for me to get there. Yeah, I can get there. Okay, so I'll show you, and you will know, you will recognize this. And here it is. And I'm hoping that you're seeing everything fairly clearly. I'll make it a little bigger. Notice here, where I'm circling the cursor, that the solar angels, or Agnishvatas, are on the Buddhic plane. Now, sometimes we get the idea that the solar angels are on the higher mental plane. They are, in a sense, that there has been an extension of their energy onto the higher mental plane, and then we would, talk about them being the angel of the presence that is embodied within the causal body or egoic lotus of the human being. Okay, so but basically, the solar angel as a larger being stays within the cosmic ethers and then projects itself down into the dense physical body of the planetary and or solar logos. I still haven't quite worked that out. I know that from what is written that the lower 21 subplanes are definitely the dense physical body of the solar logos, but I don't know whether they are the dense physical body of the planetary logos. It may be that the higher three subplanes of the mental plane are in a special category of their own and are, in a way, semi-etheric, just the way the gaseous plane, the gaseous subplane, very low on the totem pole, is semi-etheric. And what do I mean by semi-etheric? There's a lot of electricity going through the air we breathe, the gaseous subplane, via breathing exercises, which help us get into the ethers. So if I was going to, let's see here. Yeah, maybe this will do. If I was going to look way down here at the comparison, this is what I mean, that this gaseous subplane, right down here where my cursor is the antechamber to the ethers, just the way the higher mental plane here is the antechamber to the cosmic ethers. I think the parallel is pretty good, and it's more of that analogical thinking that we're trying to do. If you approach the study of this book using analogy as frequently as you can, there will be more, I think, illumination connected with your study. I think so. Okay. Now, going back. All right. So we're looking at solar fire, our major objective, that we can live on the physical plane, the dense physical plane, as representatives of the kingdom of souls, and that we can turn from fourth kingdom human beings into fifth kingdom human beings. We are still human beings because we're still members of the hierarchy of initiates. The initiates are the fourth grade of hierarchy from one perspective, and the ninth grade of hierarchy counting down from another perspective. So we're still, human beings in a sense, but we're members then of the fifth kingdom of nature. Now, people like yourself and myself, we're on the edge of being true members of the fifth kingdom of nature, and that is our objective. Maybe we're no longer desirous of so many things that the non-aspiring human being wants. You see, mankind is driven by desire. You look around and people want this and that and so many things that maybe those people who are hovering on the border of the fifth kingdom, maybe they have outgrown those things, those desires. And I would say that it's a difficult stage, but the people who are about to enter the fifth kingdom of nature, they're in a kind of transitional no man's land, which suggests Libra, of course. That he says the master of no man's land is Libra. And the idea there is that we are not full members of the fifth kingdom of nature, nor are we really participating desirously in the fourth kingdom of nature. So, we have to make that transition, and the instruction from the solar angel, angel of the presence, is helping us as human monads at a certain stage of development, helping us make that transition into the fifth kingdom. And when does that happen? It really begins to happen when you take the first initiation. You're not a full member, but there you are. You've somehow entered that fifth kingdom of nature, and you become a more and more mature member of the fifth kingdom of nature as the initiations pass along. Okay. So anyway, going on, it likewise demonstrates as yet imperfectly as the vitalizing factor in the thought forms fabricated by the thinker. Now, so many thought forms that we make might be just considered to be automatic, and they just happen by habit, almost a kind of a maya occurring on the mental plane. We just think the way we've always thought, and thought forms are generated. It's like the earth rulership of the throat center. Now, if you turn to page 517 of esoteric astrology, you will see, I'm going to do it if I can, you will see something interesting. All I have to do is move things around enough to get there. You will see the different planets that rule the different chakras. Now, when we make thought forms, or the average man, average human being makes thought forms, it's the earth right here, producing a lot of casual, useless, non-directed, non-plan oriented thought forms. And this is the way it goes for many people. They just let the throat center do its thing, and earth rules. Now, with earth, we do notice that there is an abundance of forms that nature is experimenting with. We don't know the plan of all that experimentation, but we know that the proliferation of forms in the natural world is huge, and we're always discovering new species and things that we didn't know were there, and it's an abundance. But if we are disciples and we are heading for the first initiation or having taken it, then it's not the earth anymore, is it? It's Saturn. That's the planet that is going to rule the throat center, and that aligns the production of the throat center with a purpose, with the plan, with the overall discipline to which the planetary logos subjects himself as he tries to fulfill his goal. So we become much more purposeful in the production of forms, and it's then that the solar angel or angel of the presence can really begin to control our thought form output at the throat center, and then you can begin to think about becoming a white magician. You can't really do that when Earth is the ruler of the throat center. But when Saturn and later the seventh ray and Uranus become the ruler of the throat center, you can begin to think in terms of white magic. And let me, probably what I've done here is I want to make sure that you see this because, sometimes I forget to bring so there it is on page 517. If I haven't succeeded before that. This is a very interesting tabulation. And for people interested in the chakras, the rays, and esoteric astrology, it's a really important tabulation. So see if you can memorize what you have here in terms of the rulerships of the different chakras. Now, going back to where we were. All right. So in other words, the ego then, the triad, the soul, can begin to affect and vitalize the thought forms which we generate. Now, are we at that point? Do we choose our thoughts wisely? Do we choose our words wisely? Later in Letters on Occult Meditation, he says, every word has to be chosen correctly and sounded appropriately in the right tone. This is all about the control of speech, which is a great occult building factor. Now, until that happens, we're pretty casual about what we say, just letting any old thoughts run through our mind and through our vocal apparatus. But then we become much more careful, and then it is. And, obviously we don't fulfill that completely yet, but then it is that the soul has real control over the thought forms generated. Okay? So, as yet, but few thought forms, comparatively, can be said to be constructed by the center of consciousness, the thinker, the ego. That is the beginning of the white magical process. Few people as yet are in close touch with the higher self or ego, and I assume that means even, aspirants and disciples. We know the objective and we know the method, but maybe not yet are we in close touch with the higher self or ego. In such close touch that they can build the matter of the mental plane into a form which can be truly said to be an expression of the thoughts, purposes, and desires of the ego. Now, you really will recognize this, will you not, as the method that he discusses in A Treatise on White Magic, right? This is exactly what he discusses. To be so in touch with the ego, our higher self, on the higher mental plane, first on the higher mental plane, that the thought forms we build can be truly said to be an expression of the thoughts, purpose, or desire of our ego. Now, that's something we can really strive for. We can observe ourselves during the day when we're just talking and thinking, and we can say, look, I'm talking, I'm thinking. Are these thought forms really being generated by some kind of contact with the ego? Probably we would speak a lot less than we do. Of course, DK also says some people think it's almost like a joke. He tells that in order to be initiated, you can't speak. Of course, that's a travesty. That's not true. He said some people would be a lot better if they spoke more about the right things, about spiritual matters. Okay, so, and all of this functioning through the physical brain. So let's observe ourselves, is the idea, okay? Most of the thought forms at present in circulation may be said to be an aggregation of matter built into form with the aid of kama-manas, or of desire faintly tinged with mind, producing thus an admixture of astral and mental matter, mostly astral. And that I found that very useful. Maybe you did too, to realize that the astrality of kama-manas is greater than the mentality. And it's the cause of a lot of glamour, and the majority of people in the world are subject to that kind of thinking, kama-manastic thinking, and they can be swayed by the demagogues, and they don't think for themselves. So, and it's largely due, this formation of thought is largely due to reflex elemental action. The mental elementals simply, on the basis of patterns long established, reflexively create thoughts according to those patterns, or aggregate themselves into thoughts according to those patterns. So the bottom line here, let's watch what we think and watch what we say. Not so that it becomes stilted or artificial or non-spontaneous. You can get on a good beam, and then what you think and say will be appropriate to the plan, and you can still be spontaneous. But at the same time, those desultory thought forms, just the result of habit and reflex action, they will not be characteristic of your throat center. So these dualities, then, he sums it up, are expressed as following. There's active fire or prana, and we're going to get into that before long. There's a whole section on the etheric body, which is very important. And latent fire or bodily heat. Now, we're all familiar with that, and when we are cold or have the chills, food, clothing, and shelter. The shelter is meant to preserve the bodily heat, which keeps the dense physical body in incarnation. Okay, and then the neck, and those are the lower 2 points of the 5-pointed star, and then mental energy, the middle 2 points, mental energy in the mental body. Now, there are purely mental thought forms animated by self-engendered fire, or by the 5th principle, and therefore part of the sphere or system of control of the monad. And these form an esoteric quaternary with a 5th factor. Well, look, we have different deva types operating on the mental plane. And they usually, they have the name Agni in front of them. And Vata has to do with air. In the sort of the Vedic classification, what is it? I think Tuya knows it better than I do, but there's Pitta and Vata, and there's fire, there's air, and there's earth, and I'm not sure about water. I know there are at least 3, but the word Vata is suggesting air. So there's the higher Agnishvatas and the lower Agnishvatas. And the lower Agnishvatas have to do with concrete mind. And the higher Agnishvatas have to do with the higher mind and with abstract mind, and are a better reflection of the principle of the soul, the fifth principle, then so far are the lower Agnishvatas. And all of this is under the control of the monad. So basically, so far we're dealing with four types of energy: active fire, latent fire, and then the higher mind and the lower mind, higher Agnishvatas, lower Agnishvatas, mental energy, reflecting the fifth principle, because it is the fifth plane we're dealing with. Now, the last thing is, let's see. Okay, well, we're just about there. We're just about there, and then we'll be able next time to begin fire in manifestation. Finally, there is the Monadic Flame Divine. Now, the word flame sometimes represents a lower fire, but here it represents a higher fire. This is the singularity, the topmost point of the five-pointed star. At least that's the way it is now. The five-pointed star is our symbol, and in a way, it's the symbol of Brahma, whereas the seven-pointed star may be more the symbol of Vishnu, and will be coming into expression in the next solar system, or maybe Shiva. Well, Shiva is associated with the nine and with completeness. Okay, so finally, at the top of the star, we have this monadic flame divine, something that is for us a great ideal. Think of it, it's on the sixth plane, the plane of cosmic etheric idealism. The number 6 is always about idealism. So this embodies the highest vibration of which the monad is capable, apparently capable of other things, will, wisdom, and activity, but this is the flame itself. You know, and sometimes I think that at the very center of that triangle, monadic triangle, is the flame itself, the monadic flame divine, which expresses itself through will, above, wisdom, and activity. That's how the map seems to show it, and is governed by the law of synthesis, not the law of attraction. And, you know, we could spend a long time discussing what is the law of synthesis, but somehow it renders all variety singular. The law of synthesis renders all variety singular, and basically we're told, I always misquote it by a little bit, but we're told that synthesis is, and unity must be created. So we find that underlying cohesion in things, which always is. And as far as dealing with the science of relations and how all things should be properly related to each other, that is the effort which we expend to create the unity. Sometimes synthesis and unity are used, you know, interchangeably, but no, DK is more specific. So this embodies the highest vibration of which the monad is capable. It's governed by the law of synthesis and is the cause, and here's the type of motion, of forward progressive movement of the evolving jiva. Well, the sun is not only revolving around the Pleiades, it's driving forward in space as well. So we have three types of motion to be thinking about, and this is first ray motion, forward progressive movement. And sometimes, you know, you say in your life, I wonder if I'm getting anywhere, or if I'm just repeating the same old pattern. When you're stuck in rotary motion, it can be very frustrating. Yes, it is stabilizing if practiced up to a point. When you want to really stabilize something, you repeat it, you repeat it, you repeat it until it's established. But beyond a certain point, it goes too far and you're not making progress. Now, first-rate types, they oftentimes go crashing through in order to make rapid progress, and they destroy as they go. The second-rate types have a much different method of progression, and it is the ever-rising spiral. That is their method of progression. Okay, a little more. We now come in due course to the point of merging, or to the end of manifestation, or to the consummation, viewing it monadically, of the great cycle, or manvantara. A manvantara is a non-specific term. It can represent any type of cycle. And so that's where, the Tibetan finds it very convenient to use the term as a blind. And you will see in this book later on that Mahamanvantara doesn't always mean the complete duration, objectively and subjectively, of a solar system. It sometimes means a much smaller figure. And you can get away with that because Manvantara is just a cycle of time. Okay, so a point of merging. Now, by the way, taking the fourth initiation is a kind of consummation. And you're not really, well, let's just say DK says something interesting. He says that the human kingdom ejects you, throws you out. At the fourth initiation, you are thrown out by the human kingdom. You're still a human being, of course, and the apotheosis, the climax of being human, takes place at mastership. You're no longer Leonardo's cross, you're the five-pointed star, but yet there is an ejection that occurs at the fourth degree, and it is a kind of a climax, and there a great destruction occurs, signaling that ejection. The causal body disintegrates, and also frequently the physical body as well. Not always. I mean, the personality can be used after that. I think we might say that the Tibetan has done that. He's kept that older body for a longer time, and he functions through that from his triad, but not from the soul body, which has been destroyed. And then, in the next incarnation, probably the vehicle of the personality will be a Maya Virupa, projected by a master. Anyway, what shall we therefore find? Just as in the macrocosm, the blending of the three essential fires of the cosmos marked the point of logoic attainment. Notice the blending of all the fires, marking the point of logoic attainment. So, in the blending of the essential fires of the microcosm, do we arrive at the apotheosis? It means like a godlike position, a high position. Do we arrive at the apotheosis of human attainment for this cycle? Now, that's either the fourth or the fifth degree. If you go beyond that, this cycle is the fourth Manvantara, the fourth round. So in a way, the fourth initiation signals the height of attainment, usually. But some, of course, will find mastership and shohanship, and even seventh degree shohanship, as the Christ and the Buddha are now finding. When the latent fire of the personality or lower self blends with the fire of mind, that of the higher self, and finally merges with the divine flame, then the man takes the fifth initiation in this solar system. It's the third solar initiation, but the fifth initiation in the solar system, and has completed one of his greater cycles. Let's see what it says here. Oh, goodness, there's a lot. And maybe I have, even looked at this before. But basically, we're looking here at the Father, Son, and the Mother, and all of the triplicities which connect with Father, Son, and Mother. Sometimes Mother and Holy Ghost go together, and sometimes they are distinguished, as when the Spirit of God, Holy Ghost, moved upon the face of the waters, Mother. So you have to discriminate those moments when Holy Ghost and Mother are the same, and those moments in the literature when Mother is distinct from the Holy Spirit. But I think you're familiar with this triplicity, these triplicities. We've been talking about it. But notice how the Father aspect is connected with the point. I find that's interesting. The Son, or the child, the triad, and then Mother is the quaternary. Monad, solar angel, but this, and then the lunar lords, but the solar angel, in this case, means the man once the solar angel has done its work. And the lunar lords have to do with who we are in the personality. Later, with the Maya Virupa, the lunar lords are banished. The solar lords return to their place within the sun. And what you have there is our vehicles, a higher mental vehicle, and then you have a personality vehicle completely generated from the power of Kriya Shakti in the monad. In the triad, first the triad. So then, both the solar angels and lunar lords have returned or are no longer part of the constitution of man. Something else takes their place, something which is self-generated. This is a good one too. The Spirit is the Father. Individuality is not the personal individuality, no. The real individuality on the higher mental plane, that is the child, the Son, and then the personal self. So everything there is quite straightforward. These terms, lower self, higher self, divine self, are apt to be confusing, says the Tibetan, until the student apprehends the various synonyms connected with them. And in occultism, there are so many synonyms. Master Moria actually deplores that. He says, why must there be so many names for the same thing? But anyway, there are. And the following table is helpful, okay? And then the last thing he says, when the three blaze forth as one fire. Now, we talked about that body of flame, did we not, on page 166 of this book? When the three blaze forth as one fire, liberation from matter or from material form is achieved. Matter has been correctly adjusted to spirit. It's kind of a Virgo thing in a way. And finally, the indwelling life slips forth out of the sheath, which forms now only a channel for liberation. And isn't that interesting? When the destruction of the sheath occurs, it's not just a total amorphous supernova mess, it's a channel for the liberation into the triad. That's the first stop. When the causal body is broken, disintegrated, whatever, however it falls apart, the first position now taken is in the triad, and only later is there a complete return to the monad. Okay, so that's as far as I want to go, and we'll take fire in manifestation the next time. And let's see if I can, this is, normally I would be reading from this, but I'm not going to do it right now again because it's just too detailed. And I think we have to have the sense of moving along a little bit, you know. So this, let's see how far I've gone with this. Maybe Michael can help me here. I just want to, I have all these different laws and, oh goodness.
You started on page 45 and we're now at the bottom of page 47.
Okay, goodness, there's just so much, isn't there? And it's a good thing we're not going through all of this, because maybe it wouldn't be 2050, maybe it would be the year 2100 before we get there. But if you want to read carefully, then all of this is written out for you. And you know, I took great pains to do it at some point, and you may benefit from it if you're one of those people that likes to study closely. So this will be beginning of program number 38, and it will be on the 6th of November. And it will be an evening program. And where are we? We're on page, we're right at the transition of 47 to 48. We're moving along a little faster now. It may still seem slow, but it's a lot faster than going over every detail that I have written down here when trying to be, you know, meticulous entirety, second ray, and ridiculous entirety. It can happen. Okay. All right. Now, do we have any thoughts you want to offer? Any questions you want to ask? We can do that now, if you like. Or, yeah, we can do that. Is there anybody, Michael, or is it?
Yes, Roz has written, becoming less desirous of things can be a real problem to those around the disciple, those around who are unaware of what is going on. No man's land is a good description. Thank you for pointing this out.
I think you're very correct about that. In Esoteric Psychology 2, he talks about the attitude of the man's family and near ones to his or her discipleship as lacking comprehension, and even pillaring the person if they don't live up to what they say. You know, it's a critical attitude because it's not understood. I mean, this is not always the case, of course. Sometimes you can be born in your biological family with people who are also a member of your spiritual, mental, or or even astral family. Well, maybe astral is not, you know, we wouldn't expect maybe too much from that. Temperament might be shared, but mental and spiritual family members can also be part of your biological family. And then the criticism will, and the misunderstanding will be much reduced. But so often, I'm sure we all have the experience, that there are members of our family who just don't understand why we are pursuing what we are pursuing and have no real comprehension about it. And even in some kind of subconscious way, seek for the disciple to fail. But later, DK tells us, just press ahead, because those who misunderstand, those who reject, those who criticize will awaken and will follow you later. In other words, they will come along because of the example that you set, and they will come to a realization at some point in the same life or coming lives that they too have to move forward into that transitional no man's land area and think about what is the fifth kingdom of nature. They may not call it that. They may call it something completely different depending upon the kind of religion or philosophy to which they give adherence, but they will come after those who follow after. So set the example, and well, we just have to endure it. That's all. I'm sure we've been in the position too, where members of our family long ago tried to make the transition, and maybe we were the ones who misunderstood and who criticized. It goes with the turf. No, thanks, Roz, for bringing that up. It's an important point.
And Veronica asked where to find these written commentaries, and the particular one that you are working from has been referenced from the Cosmic Fire page on Makara, and I put in a link to that page. That page link, I send out with each one of these recordings through Constant Contact.
Thank you. And there is it's been a while since I've been there, but I'm sure that the whole book up till about the last 100 pages must all be together there on Makara. Is it not so? If a person wanted to kind of...
Yes, it is all there. It's a little more difficult to find if they're looking for this particular document that you're working from.
And that's helpful if it's that one, or if in general one just wants to read along. Probably there is some kind of, there may be some kind of indication as to what's being covered in the next section, or maybe not. But, basically what you can do is go from any reference in Cosmic Fire to the same page number in the commentaries, and you'll find some kind of detailed explanation. Which is, of course, again, it's not complete. I could never presume that there would be completeness. But at least what came to my mind is I tried to be very careful, and what was sometimes thrown forth in our group discussions but was not systematically organized, I organized those things so that they could be more readily assimilated. There's a lot of fifth ray in all this stuff, and the meticulous entirety of the second ray. So if a person really feels very studential and wants to get into these things in depth, then they can choose that method. For right now, I'm going to experiment with just kind of talking about things, and if there's a specific reference that I've created and I know where it is. I might shoot over there for a minute, but right now I'll talk about the book, from the book. Okay, you can find it, Anne Veronica. Thank you, Michael, for pointing, directing people to how to get to each one.
And I am not seeing any hands raised presently, nor are there any other comments written in the chat box.
I really empathize with that condition. I mean, after all, look, what are we going to say? You know, DK is laying out the foundation of a huge system of cosmology, which he would say is just the ABCs of spiritual occultism. So, we're basically being informed about things, in a way that is quite rigorous. And, it's just like accumulating the facts of the situation. That's what we're really doing now. And to relate these things to our own life, well, that's coming, because basically we cannot put our full attention on the latent fire or bodily heat. That has to be sustained, yes, but it's in the active fire or prana that our attention will be captured during the next 2,000 years and maybe beyond, because we're heading into a great age of Aquarius. He says we can't determine when it starts with our science, but it's a 2,500-year period, really almost by certain measures, a 25,000, I should have said, it's almost a 26,000-year period, almost. And so during that 26,000 years, the development of what it means to live etherically and to use the etheric body as a receiver and transmitter of all kinds of subtle energies is going to come to the fore. And so, when we're reading about active fire or prana, it really is our next physical step. It's almost like we have to regenerate the area of latent fire or bodily heat, or what does he call it sometimes? Congestion. A congestion of matter built upon the etheric system. But we're so body conscious. If you look on the TV, as I've said, it's just all about the body, feeding it, using cosmetics, looking good, whatever it takes. It's all about the body. And we're not exactly looking at a television where the etheric body is being discussed. At the same time, vitality is discussed, and that is the transitional bridge into the etheric body. So even though we're dealing with the fundamentals here, we can apply them. Now, another thing too, we're not dealing with that part of the mind where we try to be intelligent. A man is intelligent, and the concrete mind has been greatly developed. How can we go to the moon or send Voyager out there to the ends of the solar system? There's just so many ways in which the fifth ray, in terms of concretion, has been profoundly developed. But now what we really need is the development of the higher mind. DK has told us that the reason we have to have the new schools is that the concrete mind is overdeveloped, the astral body is unstable, and the physical body is weak. So when you look at that condition, an overdeveloped concrete mind, an unstable emotionality, and a weak physical body, obviously something has to be done. So that's the reason that the new schools are coming into expression. Further, most of humanity has not even built the first bridge of the Antikarana, which is from the mental unit into the causal body. That's the next step. And when we deal with what's called the higher Agnishvatas, the fires of mind on the higher three subplanes, these have a very practical value as the destination for intelligent humanity. We have to break down these impenetrable walls of concretion and skepticism regarding the higher energies so that we can make the transition into higher mind. Sometimes it's called son of mind. It's a Mercury, Venus kind of thing. We have to get people into their higher mind, including ourselves. So even though we're just studying the fundamentals right here, it has a practical microcosmic application. As far as the monad, it's nice to know about, and it presents a destination which students of esotericism value and pursue, but not average intelligent humanity. They have to pursue the higher mind first. They have to pursue the soul first, and then later the higher triad and the impersonal worlds and what we call the monad. All that will open up. So when we're helping people be educated, we realize the soul is the next destination for the intelligent human being. How do we help them make the bridge? That's our job.
Okay, Michael. We have a couple more comments now.
I knew I could evoke them.
From Sri Yantra.
Yeah.
I tend to read a little, then wait for the rest to fall in. Does this make sense? I would be 200 years old before I could read the entire book. A form of transmission, maybe?
Okay, well, look, yes, we're what we're doing here is we're reading a little bit, but at the same time, there is an attitude of being not too self-critical. Um, you know, some people, when they run into something they don't understand, they might obsess about it and say, "Oh, I don't understand that," and they would refuse to go on. But I have found, like I joke and I say, "Look, I jogged my way through this book twice." I took out in those days when you had a little tape, and you had put them in something called a Walkman, and I did a lot of exercise, and I just listened to Cosmic Fire 2 times that way. Now, obviously, I knew I was skipping by a whole lot that I did not understand, but I allowed it to kind of go forward, or then if I really wanted to review it, I went back and did it a couple of times so it would land in my consciousness, and then I went on. And I didn't criticize myself too strenuously. I said, if I move forward in a horizontal manner, it will all begin to accrue. It will all begin to accumulate within me. And to a certain extent, it did, even though if I was to read this just horizontally, there would be loads of things I don't really understand. So I think two kinds of study are needed. The pressing forward and just going forward with maybe occasional repetitions where you get the kind of whole picture. And then there's the vertical arm of the cross where you're kind of drilling into the depth and you're just doing a little bit, and you're doing it in depth. So let's just say that both of them are useful, and it depends on how you feel on any particular day, what you really want to accomplish. I would suggest, however, for everybody to kind of charge ahead and at least get the wholeness of the thought form that DK is trying to convey, even though we might only understand 5% or 10%. I think there's something about getting the grasp of the whole, and then you come back and you really examine the particulars. I think that's what I did, and I think it served me anyway. I can't guarantee that it will serve everybody, but getting a grasp of the whole, he covers these subjects, he gets into these things, they are related in this way, and then start to really study topically. He says, study my work topically. Like go to the CD-ROM, initiation has 2,000 references. Okay, you know, and one of my friends has done that actually. He made a whole compilation on everything that has to do with initiation. But first, I would get a sense of the wholeness of it, because it might really help in selecting the topics that one has to study. I hope I indicated at least a little something there.
Next, we have Anna writing, so vitality, the fourth aspect, fourth center, heart, the love aspect, has to unite the mind as in Christ and our will. We need purification of astral body by developing the love, gratitude, and perception of the Christ event.
Okay, let me. So now, vitality. In an interesting way, if you do this astrologically, Gemini represents vitality. So it's Aries, Taurus, Gemini. It's in a sense the third of the vehicles that are discriminated in man. We have the lower mind, one. We have the desire vehicle, Taurus, two. We have Gemini, the vitality. And then the fourth aspect, so to speak, is the dense physical body ruled by Cancer. Now, vitality, yes, it absolutely is connected with the heart, but not only, because there is a triangle, you know, Anna, that pranic triangle that here, let's see if I can find that. You know where it is, but anyway, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll do it this way. Yeah, this is going to be a treatise on cosmic fire, and it's going to be right around page 170. And there is another triangle which is essential for vitality. And I think it's, here it is, the pranic triangle.
And you're going to show those on your screen.
Yeah, as soon as I get the, yeah, exactly. As soon as I get the, underline it the way I want to underline it. Okay, yeah. But of course, I always forget that. And here it is. So this is page 169 or 170 of, yeah, 169 of Cosmic Fire. And the vitality is really very dependent upon this triangle. The shoulder center, which is not the heart center, and it probably has more to do with the lung center. As we know, vitality and the breath, Gemini, the lungs, are all related. A center near the diaphragm but above it, whereas the solar plexus is below it, and maybe above all, the spleen. When DK wanted people to revitalize themselves. He focused on the spleen, on orange light, on breathing near a window, that kind of thing. So that has to be combined with the heart and the heart essence to get the story of vitality. And then, of course, the Kundalini, in a way, is responsible for a huge revitalization of the whole energy system. So vitality, but indeed, as you say, the heart is the fourth center and is the love aspect. And the love aspect and mind have to unite. How do they unite? They unite particularly under the influence of Venus, love and mind. And you see that because Venus, in the rayology of Venus, you have the fifth ray soul, mind, and the sixth ray, second ray monad, love. So love and mind come together, and Venus will have a great deal to do with the heart center of the solar logos. Already it does, but right now it's in the condition of moving from the solar plexus, which Venus rules for the solar logos, I believe, to the heart. So love and mind have to be united. The mind, as it is in Christ, is united to the mind aspect, and eventually to the will aspect, which will take it to the highest head center in the microcosm. We definitely need purification of the astral body. And you know what? The first two the first two meditations in Discipleship in the New Age, Volume 2, are precisely that, for the purification not only of the astral body of the meditator, but of the group astral body, purification and harmonization. And indeed, that's correct what you say, that the astral body will be purified by love, and that is the Buddhic connection. The more Buddhi enters the causal body, which it does gradually, the more it will be possible to bring that love wisdom vibration into the astral body, getting rid of glamour and thus purifying the astral body. And Master Moria tells us that gratitude holds the highest fires. Maybe, he really tries to promote the attitude of gratitude. And let's just say that when gratitude sweeps over us, we have some kind of idea of what is the Christ energy. What is this love wisdom? What is this Christ consciousness? You call it here the Christ event. Well, yes, it can be that way, or it can be a very slow process of gradually building the Christ consciousness in, and occasionally moments of intensified Christ realization, which is basically soul triadal realization. So, what I've done is I've tried to look at your paragraph there and analyze the different points that you brought up. We have to have a vitality in the energy system, but there's also a vitality of love, and there's a vitality of will, and we have to blend them all together for a consummation. Okay.
And then Cindy writes, this session has really helped me understand what I have been experiencing. Thank you.
Well, that's good, Cindy. And I find that I find the Cosmic Fire book, well, almost everything he writes, really to be endlessly illuminating if we can just stick with it and allow the light to continue to shine forth as we notice more and more connections between things. So our little bit of light, um, which is a lot and seems like a lot compared to the ignorance in which we have lived for so many thousands and even millions of years, is a reward of our study and of our service. However, as well, we know we're just at the beginning. And that is a very humbling thing, We're grateful for the new light and how it springs forth and how it illuminates what was dark for us, but we hold in mind in a humble manner, which is reinforced by realization as we go along, that we're just at the beginning. And there's no reason ever to feel unhappy about that, because if we're becoming more illuminated at the beginning, one can only imagine the intensity of the light which lies ahead, and what a great joy it will be to live in that higher form of light and to share it with others as the Tibetan is sharing it with us. So I'm glad it's working out for you, at least here on this day. Okay. What else?
No other written comments at this point.
Okay.
I kind of think of this as taking down a book or two from this infinite library and reading a paragraph and realizing that it's all knowable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is all knowable, and depending upon the status um, of our, I'm going to say, entification. What kind of being are we right now? We are emanations who are members of the fourth creative hierarchy, and we are having an experience in the human kingdom. We could be having an experience in the kingdom of souls or in the kingdom of planetary lives, and we would still be members of the fourth creative hierarchy. And at every one of those stages, more is knowable. And, when we really start ascending into huge entification, we can only imagine, even in our tiny little universe, I say that with deliberation, um, even in our tiny little universe, those great beings relative to us know ever so much more, and we will be restored to that position of knowledge. But then you come to the point, like you said, the infinite library. You come to the point of um, absolute infinitude and the type of perception that reveals absolute infinitude. And it seems to me, although it's part of another class, that only the trans-universal deity is in the position of the knower with respect to that absolute infinitude. But fortunately for us, we are that deity. And we will be restored to the knowledge which is complete when the universe is going through its Mahapralaya and is dissolved. And then we come back into limitation and objectivity once again. So, about getting a library card in that infinite library, I've been looking for the way to apply for such a card, but I haven't found it yet. Have you?
We all have that card. We just need to use it.
You got to play that card. Yeah, okay. Well, it's coming in time, in time. Okay,
And
thank you for that thought.
so there are
That,
thank yous and gratitudes and blessings from various people.
okay, well, thank you, everybody. Appreciate your presence. And tonight we continue with the, I think it's, is it 7 o'clock that we,
The
7 G?
the Dissipation of Glamour webinar is postponed because we are having the pre-full moon webinar that begins at 8 p.m. GMT.
Yeah, exactly. And we have one more thing.
The Sacred Pentagram, I recall, is at 6 or 6:30 p.m. GMT.
Okay, gosh, is Tuya here?
Yes,
Well,
she is.
okay, maybe can you say, I'm sorry, Tuya, what time do we start our sacred pentagram tonight? Do you know?
1 second, I'll check it. Tonight it is at 6 p.m.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that gives a little break before we take up our Scorpio pre-full moon. And then the next day we have our actual Scorpio full moon service meditation. And what time do we begin that? I'm sorry that I don't have that in front of me.
I believe it's 1:20 p.m. GMT.
Is that correct then? Is that what you have too, Tuya? 1:20 p.m. Okay. Well, we're hoping that is the correct one, because it is a daytime. It's a daytime
Yes, it
full
is.
moon.
Michael, yes, it is 1:20 p.m. GMT.
Okay, on Halloween, right? Okay. Very good. Great time for the Scorpio full moon celebration. Okay, thanks everybody. So what I'll do, I will stop the recording, and after I do that, Michael will turn off the whole program. And lots of love to all of you and many blessings from all of us. And we'll be working ahead. And this will be available before long on Makara. You take care now, and bye-bye.